Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? Hope you're having an incredible day, and may peace be upon you. And welcome to the show. It Takes Courage with me, your host, Dr. Izdihar Jamil. And today we are going to be talking about being unapologetic and unstoppable in sharing your voice. And we are also going to celebrate the launch of the book Voices for Impact, curated by an incredible organization that champions young girls' voices in over 30 countries. And one of the coolest part about this book is that it features young authors and brave women from diverse backgrounds. But first, let's go straight to the point of bringing on our speaker today, Pam Bradley. She is the story coach for Voices for Impact. She's also a best-selling author, as well as an accomplished singer-songwriter, to touch base about what it means to bravely share your voices. And Voices for Impact is available on Amazon, so make sure you grab a copy today. It's a special Kindle launch for $1.99. So let's bring Pam up on board here. Here we are. Let's see if she is. Hi, Pam. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Iz. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Pam, let's go straight to the point and cut the BS.
All
And
right.
let's talk about how people can bravely share their voices and kind of bust through this imposter syndrome.
That's a good one. Sometimes people get imposter syndrome, I think, because they don't feel that they're good enough to say what they're going to say. But if we take a moment and look inside our own heart and our own voices about our message, we will see that whatever it is that we have to say will connect in its own way because we are uniquely us with our own message. We're not like anybody else. So we can't compare ourselves to others that may have said something similar in a different way or maybe have more experience than us. We are good enough to say what we're going to say in a very unique way because we're special within our own right.
Yeah, and how can you have the imposter syndrome, especially when you're saying something that is true to you, something that you believe in, something that you're passionate about? And I feel like people are always comparing themselves to something or feeling less than something. So that kind of like kicks in the imposter syndrome because they are in the gap. One of the things that Pam and I was just talking about backstage was that we recently have this group of women who flew to space. They wore a blue jumpsuit, flew to space for a few minutes, and they came back down again. And Pam pointed out that we don't think that they are. I mean, maybe one or two, but we don't think that they are astronauts, right, Pam?
Right. In fact, a few of them we know are more on the celebrity side. Uh, and is was saying too, and they went up with full makeup. They're looking glamorous. And what we were talking about is we don't believe any of them had imposter syndrome, that they were not astronauts or not good enough to get on that flight. So that they just got up and unapologetically stepped on and took the ride because that was their dream to do. So bravo to them, right?
Exactly. And that is like the way to kind of like demonstrate being unapologetic, because they don't care what people say, in the sense that, oh, you just got in because of your celebrity status or the wealth that they have, that this is probably their dream. Their dream to go to space and see the world from, from like outside of the earth. That was the only opportunity that they have. So imagine if they were going there and like, oh my God, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel good enough. No, these women walk on strong and really own their red carpet moment. They've got the full makeup on, they've got the hair on, they've got like looking
Yeah.
glamorous, and then stepping into the pod or the rocket. And Pam, they even walked back out again when it landed, looking glamorous and kind of like owning it, right?
Exactly. And so I think this is very important to state that when you are writing a book, or you are like these brave ladies that shared their stories in the Voices for Impact, that you have to have you have to own it, right? You have to own what you're going to say. You have to own your message, because it's important to you to share it. And I think these ladies, and young ladies, and the more seasoned ladies in the book, both have shared such powerful stories that they have done it very well, and they have great messages for everybody of all ages in the book.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you want to consider is that people are always going to say things about you, no matter what you do. Like these ladies, that people are always saying stuff about this ladies that went to space because of the status, the celebrity, the wealth, or whatever that is. But they were like, you know what? I don't care, or I'm putting it to the side because I am stepping into my dream. I am stepping into my voice, no matter what people say, because people are going to say whatever they want to say, and we don't have control over what they say. And even if we explain it in the best way possible, they wouldn't hear us because they have barriers. There's something stuck, in between them and us, that they couldn't hear what we have to say. So you might as well do it. And I believe it was Jim Carrey, our friend Laura, sent me a video, and it was Jim Carrey giving a commencement speech.
Mhm.
And he was like, his dad didn't go for his dream, but went for a job. But then he was laid off for the job. So he says that even if you don't go for your dream and get something that is what you don't want, you're still gonna fail. So you might as well fail and do something that you love, or sharing your voice, and keep on doing it. So I think that was a really cool thing, right, Pam?
That is a really cool thing. And another point, to going back to what we were saying, that people are gonna people are gonna judge you no matter what,
Hmm.
whether it's good or bad. I could say the name Jim Carrey, for instance, to a group of people, and I will probably get 50% of the people that love Jim Carrey and have great things to say, and probably 50% that may, for some reason, have something they don't care about Jim Carrey, right? So Jim Carrey just needs to be Jim Carrey.
Yes. Jim Carrey needs to be Jim Carrey in how he acts in movies. And if you're an author, like, the ladies in here, and how they share their voice, they share their message, and it is going to translate so beautifully. And Pam was just saying there's one of the authors here. Her name is Mamta, and she shared a really vulnerable story. So, Pam, do you want to highlight what the message is from that story, from Mamta's story?
Yes, it's a really, it was told in such a beautiful way, but it's a very simple message. It was the author is the grandmother, and she was telling the story about this incident that happened with the granddaughter. And the grandmother, what had been told through her life, I believe, that she can't do things, that, or if things went wrong, it was because of something she did. And so she always didn't put herself out there to figure things out. Sometimes she would always rely on other people. But one day the car was beeping, and they couldn't figure out how to shut it off. And the granddaughter, who I believe was like 8 or 9, hopped into the front seat and she could see the grandmother was frustrated and didn't know what to do, opened up the glove box, pulled out the manual, turned in, and she said, "I think you need to push this button." And she pointed to the picture, and so the grandmother did, and and it turned off the beeping noise. And she found out in that moment the lesson was the granddaughter had always been told, "You were made you were made for hard things." I think that was the line, something like that. In other words, she was able to figure things out. No matter how difficult it was, she could figure things out. And that not only impacted the granddaughter's life like forever. In that moment, the grandmother realized how important that saying was and what that granddaughter had been taught was, and it taught her a lesson that that lessons can be multi it can go up or down. So it could be taught from a younger person to an older person or an older person to a younger person. It's not always what we think, where the older generation's teaching the younger. It can also be taught from a younger generation to the older. And that's why I think this book is also really important, because there's young girls in here telling their stories, and we can learn so much from them in their own what they have been taught and what they have learned on their journey so far, and maybe it's something we can take away. I sure learned from this little 8 or 9 year old girl this story. We are made for hard things. We can figure it out.
Absolutely. And it's a story of the grandmother. So the story is told by the mom,
For the
which
mom.
is the grandmother and the daughter, right? And the grandmother is always told that she can't, but the
Yes.
daughter is always taught that she can. So it makes such a huge difference in terms of the perspective and the actions and the curiosity, the adventure that people are willing to take. So make sure you grab the book Voices for Impact, available on Amazon, and your purchase is going to support empowerment leadership program for girls in 30 countries. So that's how powerful this book is. It really embodies the Global Girls Glow vision of sharing, of young girls courageously sharing their voices and making an impact with the world and becoming positive leaders. So with that, I just wanted to run through in the chapter, in the book as well, there's a bonus chapter that highlights 14 tips to share your message with courage, clarity, and compassion. So this isn't just one of those feel-good books. Oh my God, amazing stories, and then what's next? We give like guidance, clear action tips, and key lessons that you can easily take away and implement very simply. So one of the things in the bonus chapter is by Anu Jain, Encourage Big Dreams. So you want to really think big, whatever that you can think about. And then from Jenny, Tell Yourself the Truth. Tell yourself the truth. And I think that is so powerful but underrated, because it's the hardest thing to do, to tell yourself the
That's
truth.
true. Yeah.
And from Joy, find brave spaces to share your story. So wherever you can find spaces to share your story, share it. Even if it's at, as you're buying a cup of coffee, or even if you're at the playground, or even if you're meeting someone, or even if you're doing a school run, find places to share your story. And then Mamta, you can do hard things. You can do hard things. And what I love about this one is that by Dr. Michelle Goodwin, express love in everyday moments. Express love in everyday moments, whether it's in a smile, a handwritten note, sharing a meal, or teaching someone to read and write. And then I feel like the last thing that I wanted to share by Kylie, and she says, give yourself an A. Appreciate, accept, admit, and acknowledge who you are. So that's like really, really cool tips that you can take away almost immediately from the book and start to kind of like synthesize it and embrace it for that perspective. So now we want to touch base with what is the benefit of you sharing your voice, because it's not an easy thing to do. So Pam, what are some of the things that a possibility that can happen when you share your voice?
well, I think in one example that I just shared about the story that I took away from is it impacts in a big way a such a small line. That one simple line is something I was sharing with before hopping on backstage, that is something I'll remember forever. I will remember that line forever. So it can be your message can be very simple and
Mhm.
have such a big impact. So I always lean back into my heart on what's to come up to say sometimes, even in the conversations that you're saying in the coffee shop or wherever. And that also gives you practice in being more comfortable in sharing your stories and using your voice, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it, the more comfortable you get at it. And so you can see in any small way, you can have a big impact on just one person. But don't think that that's just a little thing, because that one person then can affect one or two other people, and it
Mhm.
causes that ripple effect in your community, in your world, in your family,
Mhm.
wherever you happen to be, wherever you happen to start that voice, that message.
Mhm. That is beautiful. And kind of like courage takes practice. It takes practice. So you don't just like, bah, I'm so brave. It takes practice of not saying things multiple times. It takes practice of saying a few words at a time. It takes practice of showing up and doing it again the next day and the next day. It takes practice. Courage takes practice. And I was just remembering like a story from the book from by Kylie, who is the founder of Global Girls Glow that organized the book. And when Kylie was younger, she loves digging. She loves playing with dirt. But she was told that ladies don't do that. No digging, no playing with dirt, no showing negative emotion, none of those. But as a result, because of what she has been told, Kylie then created a movement that is across 30 countries that helps young girls to have courage and bravery in their voices and have positive leadership. Because without Kylie's vision, is the rippling impact oh, is the rippling impact that you can have when you start to share your voice. Because otherwise, Pam and I wouldn't be here to be part of this project. The young girls wouldn't be here to be part of this project and sharing the voice. And earlier, we had a launch party where one of the girls, Huong from Vietnam, who's gone through, tough, challenging times. But she came on in her video smiling and sharing that I have shed my shell and don't just read the book. It's time for you to create a movement. And this is from a 16-year-old girl, right? And her message is in this book. So you really want to read her story, like at 16,
Wow.
going through hard times and still smiling. So it's just a beautiful thing to hear. So, Pam, what's one more benefit that people can contemplate or a possibility when they share their voice?
I think something that people don't think about is, um, because we keep talking about how it affects others,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we haven't touched on how it affects the person that shares the
Mm-hmm.
message and uses their voice. And I believe that it makes them, as the more we were talking about, it's putting in the reps, it's doing the practice of doing it. But I've watched people tran literally transform themselves to being more confident, more brave, more bold, more courageous, and being able to stand up for themselves and others. So it's not about just impacting others. I believe it all in turn impacts the person themselves that's speaking unapologetically, because it's freeing, right? It frees you to be, when you become your unique self, we're talking about, unapologetically being uniquely you. And the more you practice that yourself, the braver you become, the bolder you become, the more courageous you become. And I'm sure you have watched people do that as they write their books, as they talk on stage, that it changes. They transform probably before your eyes the more that they do it and practice it.
Absolutely. And one of the things about sharing stories, sharing your voice, that Pam and I wouldn't be here if Pam didn't share her voice and if I didn't share my voice, because I found out about Pam from Drew. And Drew shared his message on the TEDx Huntington Beach stage, in which I curated, and he talked about Pam. I'm like, who is Pam? I didn't even meet Pam on that event. Apparently, she came, you came, but I didn't even meet you on that day. And then it all comes together. And then Pam and I were connected back again through Laura, who's our great mutual friend. And then here we are today, like the this book came because I got an unexpected email in the summer of last year when I was in Malaysia at my mom's house, and I shared that in the introduction chapter. And I was like, who is this Laura that sent me an email? Don't even know her, never talked to her before, but that was something that gravitated me towards her because of her passion of movement, of legacy, of making an impact. And I had an idea of like, you know what? Why don't they create a book? It's something tangible, something that they can showcase to people, something that really highlights what they are for, something tangible, something they can hold, something they can gift to people, something that's going to last, a legacy. So I was like, okay, I want to propose this idea, but I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, who am I to propose it? Even though I've done this multiple times, this is what I do. Oh, I'm not sure they're gonna do this. They're gonna hire me. That this, da da da. But it is courage to show up, to speak up, and to take action that led to this project today. And I'm like, hey Pam, do you want to help me out? Do you want to join me and becoming the story coach for this book? So it created an opportunity for Pam. It created an opportunity for 14 other ladies and 3 young authors to be part of this book. It created an opportunity for people to sponsor a mentorship program for girls for just $200 a year, that they have a mentorship program. So it just opens up so many opportunities of, money is one thing, right? One of the authors said money is just spiritual. So grab the book, sponsor a girl or whatever it is that you can. But how do you say it, Pam, in the way that people know that this is not just for today? It's like a lifetime kind of like rippling impact.
It is, and you just made a really good point by telling the story about I didn't know you 2
Mhm,
years ago, right? Um, and because of the connections between certain people, that we are all connected now, and we all have impact in different ways, right?
mhm,
So it is more than just a book or written word or telling stories. It's about making a difference in your life and each other's life. Because when you were sharing that, I'm just thinking about even yourself, myself, Drew, and Laura, in what we all do individually and collectively has touched a lot of people. That just gave me goosebumps
mhm,
because right, and so that is where the power of sharing what you do, believing in what you do, and just starting with
mhm,
whatever you have in your heart to speak, your in your message and your voice, in words. I mean, think about it. If we don't have words, think about that. If
mhm.
there was no words,
Yeah.
where would we be? Or we weren't able to express ourselves. It's such a powerful way, and especially for these ladies in the book, such a powerful way to help the cause, to help so many other people. It's just, it goes back to that ripple effect of
Yeah.
in 30 countries. That, just think about that, in 30 countries.
Mhm.
Uh, that's that's huge.
That is huge. And I was just, a story just pops up in my mind when I was at the playground with my youngest, Rehan. He just turned 4 and he loves climbing the slides, climbing the steps and everything. And he told me, Mommy, you need to climb up. There's like a climbing things, and so that he can go to the slide. And he told me to climb up. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it because I don't like heights. And obviously, like, I just don't want to climb and I don't like heights. And he was like, Mommy, climb up. I said, No, I don't want to do it. And Rayhan was like, This is a 4-year-old. You can do it, Mommy. Climb up, climb up. You can do it, Mommy. I'm here. Climb up, Mommy. And he did not stop. So I'm like, Oh my word. It's not even that high, okay? But it's just the height that kind of like scares me. And it goes back to what Pam was saying about the story of from Mamta, that it makes a huge difference on what we we teach other people and what is being taught to us. So that is like a really powerful way of how voices can make an impact. So Pam, let's wrap it up with this. Okay. All right, so hi. Well, Rehan is here. Like he just heard his name. Obviously, he's gonna like pop in. So Pam, let's wrap up with what's your biggest advice for people to share their message with clarity, courage, and compassion.
What popped in my head was just be you.
Mhm.
The more that you're open to being you, the more clarity you'll have, the more compassion you'll have, and the more it'll come across as clear as it needs to be in that moment.
Yeah, just be you, but be you in a way. I would
From
say
the
in
from
a
the heart,
yes, from the heart, the unfiltered, the raw version of you. Yeah, not the
not
mind of
not
what
from
you
the
think,
head. Yeah.
of what you think what perfection looks like. And if you're funny, then be funny. If you tend to be silly, then be silly. But also know that your commitment, I think that's the most important thing. Know who you are and what you are committed to. So like and my biggest tip for you to share your message with courage, clarity, and compassion is be open to learning, especially learning from the younger ones, because they, I believe, they are so in tune with the divine that the message comes through them, and the way they think and everything, it's just like, huh, what, oh, I think that is, I think that's just the message for me. I think that might just solve my problems. And sometimes we think that we're older, we have to have all the answers, but not really. Sometimes the answer is probably if I ask Rayhan about the answer to the universe, probably he knows because he's so in tune with the divine. Okay, Pam, let's wrap with this one up and fill in the blanks. Voices for impact happens when?
We are unapologetically ourselves.
Yes, unapologetically ourselves and being unstoppable. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much, Pam, for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Hold on, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and your wisdom. And if you haven't grabbed a copy, go and get a copy of Voices for Impact. It's available on Amazon. It's a launch day today, April 14th. So it's a very special launch price, but it wouldn't stay long that way. The paperback is coming in soon. And if you so happen wants to sponsor a girl for a lead for a mentorship program for the whole year, is $200. So just go to Global Girls Glow organization and make the donation. But regardless, be brave and share your voice. It's just practiced over and over again. And no, it doesn't matter how you share your message. Pam's a singer songwriter, so her best way is to write songs and sing. I I like writing books. I don't like writing books, but I like telling stories. And my medium is book, or in an interview, or in a publication, or in a magazine, or at the coffee shop, or at the ice rink with the parents, or the soccer field. It doesn't matter. Practice sharing your story in whatever vessel or capacity that you have. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Pam, thank you so much for joining today. Remember to grab a copy of Voices for Impact. And remember, courage comes from the fact that you take actions. It just doesn't happen by happenstance. It happens when you take action and when you have the best people supporting you and cheering you on. All right, Pam, let's say bye to everybody. Take care, everybody. May peace
Bye.
be